Equality Florida's Nadine Smith talks about the perilous moment LGBTQ plus Florida has reached. During Saturday's Equality Florida Broward Gala, Al Ferguson and Kitty Meow interviewed Nadine Smith, the executive director of Equality Florida. In the interview, they discussed the importance of equality and how voting can help. Watch this.
Well, it's Al Ferguson with Queer News Tonight. It's happening out, and my co-partner here tonight.
Hi,
Kitty Meow from the Kitty Meow Show.
Absolutely.
And of course, the person standing between us needs no introduction. We're getting ready. We're here at the Equality Florida 19th Annual Broward Gala, and we're getting ready to hear the state of the state. And of course, Nadine Smith. We've known each other from when the dinosaurs walked the earth.
I remember it well.
Don't say it.
Exactly. Welcome, Nadine. We're really happy. What an amazing event this is tonight. Tell us a little bit about Equality Florida and mission for the three people that don't know what Equality Florida does.
Well, you know what? Next year's our 25th anniversary, 25 years of Equality Florida. And in that time, you know, we have spent decades building a statewide infrastructure. These galas are the beating heart of the organization. It's where we get the resources to do the work. It's where we celebrate the volunteers and we honor the champions. And so our mission has been to secure equality and equity for the LGBTQ community, whether you live in the Panhandle where I grew up or live on the beach in Miami or out here in Broward. No matter where you are in the state of Florida, you have a right to exist without discrimination and with your dignity and your safety protected.
You know, in 2020, I did not ever think that we would ever see the gains in LGBT that we saw with President Obama. And then this little thing happened in 2020 of President Biden and Vice President Harris. And the sweeping embracement of LGBT in all levels, representation, Admiral Dr. Rachel Levine, representation. What's the year been like for you in terms of your enthusiasm of seeing what you're seeing in our federal government?
Well, you know, I think that as a country, we're at this inflection point where there are people very fearful of the future. They're very fearful of a future that embraces diversity, racial, LGBTQ, different religions, different, this backlash, the scapegoating of immigrants, the efforts to push back on the protections that we have secured really comes from an anxiety, particularly among older white voters, that they're about to be a minority in a country that has not treated minorities well. And I think our challenge is to put forward a vision of America that includes everyone. That it's not about who's higher up on the totem pole. It's about how do you make this world equitable for everyone. And until that message, really penetrates, and I don't know, I know that we've changed the country by coming out, being our authentic selves, telling our stories. And now I think the hard work is maintaining the ties that bind, even with the people who in many ways are betraying us, are voting for people who don't protect us. And yet they're our family, they're our friends from high school, they're people in our world that we have to maintain some semblance of connection at a time when we're being pulled apart. And I think if we don't, we're going to have chaos and violence and a lot of pushback. But I think that there is a more hopeful future.
I love the word hopeful. Just sitting here listening to you communicate, that's what we have to convey to the people who think they're our enemies.
Absolutely, and fear is their enemy. It's not us.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the fear in many of our communities in LGBT is real. You have watched, while I talk about the mammoth successes we've seen in 2020, one of our communities, the trans community, has effectively been left behind by many states, state legislatures, including Florida. I had the pleasure of doing an extensive interview with your new trans director for Equality Florida. Tell us about Equality Florida's advocacy in the trans community.
Sure. So for a number of years now, we've had a program called Transaction, and it's run by our transgender inclusion director, pioneered by Gina Duncan and now led by Nicole Parker. And really the purpose of that department is to make sure that trans inclusion is a river that runs through everything that we do. And it recognizes that very often the target of legislators is who they perceive to be the most vulnerable, who they perceive to have the least political power. And so what we see in the Florida legislature is a concerted effort to go after trans kids. First, to bulldoze through 10 years of guidelines that ensure fairness and allow trans kids, including Jazz Jennings, to play soccer when she was 8 years old. They bulldozed all that aside because their political consultants told them there were additional votes to wring out by appealing to fear. And the simple fact that very few people know a trans kid, and so they've reduced those young people to caricatures that, and the only way to combat that is for trans kids and trans people and their families and their teammates to tell the story. And so we're going to be amplifying the stories that come from the community that is being targeted the most. And we have to remember that wherever they start, it's not where they will end. They are building political power. We see them coming after our community. We see legislatures in different states trying to say, well, the Supreme Court might have ruled on marriage, but we don't have to recognize it. So we're going to have to be vigilant. Yeah, we're going to have to be vigilant to continue that progress and make sure that they don't push us backwards.
You know, Nicole Parker was amazingly well-spoken for the community and for Equality Florida. And we got into an extensive conversation about, is the L and the G and the B and the Q doing enough for the T in our acronym? What do you think about that? Are we standing up for each other in the way that we should be, or is there more to be done?
Well, there's definitely more to be done. I mean, the staggering statistics are that we know at least 46 trans women, mostly black and brown trans women, have been murdered this year. It is the most deadly year for the trans community. And that statistic alone tells me we're not doing enough. I know that there has to be education within the LGBTQ community, you know, because, you know, part of this work, part of the challenge of this work is that you must have empathy for experiences that are outside of your own. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't have to, you shouldn't have to be gay or have a gay kid to care about what happens to gay people. You shouldn't have to be trans or have a trans friend to give a damn about what happens to the trans community. And so, yes, there are people within the LGBTQ community who, you know, who sort of feel like they've made it and aren't looking around to say, is everybody here? Are we all together? But I would say here in Florida, we refused to pass local ordinances that did not have trans inclusion. We would not support legislation in Tallahassee that did not have trans inclusion, because we know that how we speak and where we stand has a ripple effect. Just like when they come after us and they come after trans kids, the day the governor signed that hateful bill, within 2 days there were viral videos of trans kids getting beat up in school. We know it has an impact, so there's a lot more work to do. And I will say this, a world in which a 15-year-old black trans girl is safe is a world where all of us up here are safe.
Exactly.
And until we have that world, our work isn't done.
Yeah, we sit here in November. We're now about a year from the midterm elections. What's your challenge to LGBT? What can we do? What should we be doing over the next year to make what you just said a reality?
I think that everybody has to understand that, you know, we live in very strange times right now where, you know, we're all eager for things to get back to normal, but we also have to recognize that our progress has been built on public education, you know, shifting public opinion, because what that means is we're shifting votes. If the legislature is able to take actions that reduce the number of people or curate who's able to vote, and, you know, the Floridians went to the polls and overwhelmingly said, if you have paid your debt to society, you should be able to vote. And the Florida legislature immediately set about dismantling the will of the people, because they want to keep people from being able to vote. They want to make sure only people who are likely to vote for them and their regressive policies can vote. And I guess what I want to say here is this. It's not just LGBT rights that are on the line, it's democracy itself. And if we lose democracy, the entire premise for how we've organized goes out the window. And so I want to say to people right now, take it seriously, understand what the stakes are, and whatever we have done. You know, I've spent decades of my life doing this work, but I don't think it's been more important than right now. Get involved, do more. You know, we live in a world of push this button, sign this petition. but we got to get out there. And more importantly, we got to talk to the people in our world who aren't going to respond to an organization. They're going to respond because we went to school together. Our parents know each other, and they may be down one of those QAnon rabbit holes, and you may be the only light that's left on for them when that fantasy begins to disintegrate. So that's the hard work.
You know, Nadine Smith, as Executive Director of Equality Florida, is arguably our leading advocacy voice in this state for equality for the LGBTQ community. What tangibly can we do? You would ask us to do what?
Make sure you register to vote, volunteer to be part of our Get Out the Vote team. There are, we have a network of staff all over the state, and if you're willing to help in whatever way, we need you. And it doesn't matter whether you've been doing activism all your life or this is your first entree, contact us. You can email Nadine@equalityflorida.org, and I will get you to the right person who can get you involved.
Email the Executive Director of Equality Florida. And let me provide a soundbite. EQFL.org. You hear it there. We're here at the Broward Gala for Equality Florida, the 19th anniversary of this. This event is so important because it initiates the activity and the action steps of volunteerism, but it also does something else that's really critically important. If we're going to compete with those that hate our community, we have to raise money. And you can go to EQFL.org to help financially support the organization also. We have 12 months. You've got your year cut out for you.
We do. It's going to be a big year.
Yeah.
But we're ready for
everything you do.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we're at the Broward Gala of Equality Florida with Executive Director Nadine Smith.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ+